This is Tehenhauin, or Tehenhauin. However you feel like pronouncing his name, this beefy skink is good for one thing, and one thing only: killing ratmen. See, he hates the Skaven with a fiery passion. There's nothing he enjoys more than channeling that warmth through his engine of the gods, burning away the unwashed hordes of Raki filth that have plagued his continent for millennia. He is the Prophet of Sotek, the Lizardmen god of war, the greatest skink of an age and a harbinger of woe for the Vermintide. His rise to power and his war with Clan Pestilence was marked by one of the most brutal and pyrrhic campaigns in Warhammer history. To combat the threat swarming millions of diseased zealots posed in their invasion of Lustria, the Lizardmen had to get down and dirty and respond with their own form of zeal, which came in the form of ritual sacrifice on an unimaginable scale. Temple cities ringing day and night with the sound of sacrificial blades, striking stone through bone, parting heads from shoulders in a ritual so potent, with so many bodies to feed it, but a sign from the heavens flashed overhead. The fork-tongued Comet of Sotek, a twin-tailed message forged in fire, heralding the rise of a new power in Lustria. The skinks swarmed to Tehenhauin's side, and the serpent god himself rose from the jungle in an avalanche of poisonous beasts that drove the Skaven out of their hovels and straight into the sea. Even the Prophet of Sotek's own tail is a representation of his god, split in two to mark his greatness and to mirror the lightning-fast two-pronged assaults that characterize his battlefield tactics. In Warhammer 2's The Prophet in the Warlock DLC, Tehenhauin leads the Cult of Sotek faction out of Cakes in southern Lustria, as a hybrid caster of the Lore of Beasts, but with a powerful selection of mounts, frenzy, poison, and the plaque of the Lord of Serpents. He fulfills quite a few more battlefield roles than that of a mere mage. High melee attack, good AP values, and the always powerful poison debuff, he can bully units up close and personal too, and when you add a Ripperdactyl or an Ancient Stegodon with the Engine of the Gods into the mix, he can completely change the landscape of any battlefield he frequents. So let's talk about his mounts. You could put him on a Horned one, which makes him a solid choice to ride alongside a heavy cav horse with Curse of Anra here, but I think a Red Crescent Skink with that innate 30 bonus versus large, and Warrior's Crest Combat Steroid, or even just a regular Saurus Old Blood with the Amulet of Itzel and Horn of Kygor would be a better choice if you're looking for a lord to roll alongside Horned ones or Spear Riders. Instead, Tehenhauin really comes into his own on a Ripperdactyl or on his Ancient Stegodon. He can summon Manticores to help him in his Colossadon Hunters in an aerial duel, or to swoop down on high-value targets from above, and that huge bonus versus infantry and AP he gets on the Ripper lets him delete infantry or dismounted lords and heroes straight out of the game. On the Engine of the Gods, he becomes a world beater, an army unto himself. 140 armor, a huge HP pool, and murderous DPS. He can also summon orbital bombardments from on high with the old ones backing him up that just evaporate enemy battle lines if your opponent is foolish enough to stick around and get caught up in the blast. The beam is pretty slow moving, so you'll want a net or something to set that up, but it can be incredibly powerful. I would skip the Blade of the Serpent's Tongue in most situations. It's kind of redundant in an army that already has a plethora of poison options anyway, but his other item is definitely worth mentioning. Low cooldown, low winds and magic spells synergize incredibly well with him because of the Plaque of Sotek, which grants him a 22% ward save every single time he casts a spell. You can basically spend the entire battle with Wyson's Wild Form and Pan's Impenetrable Pelt up and running, and combined with that damage resist coming in from all incoming sources, he becomes incredibly hard to kill. Infantry-focused factions have to swarm him to bring him down, and that's when the holy light of Exterminatus can shine down from the heavens and wipe the Vermintide away. His entire campaign revolves around the ritual sacrifice of as many battle captives as possible, and these sacrifices give him access to Regiments of Renown straight from turn 1, allowing him to take a powerful position early on in terms of unit selection compared to his neighbors. But this comes at a cost. Saurus and Slann are wary of his growing power and intentions, and they'll cost double the upkeep to maintain during the early game, forcing you to rely on skinks for your conquest until you progress further in the prophecy. And as one might expect, his skill tree grants huge bonuses to Red Crescent Skinks, Salamanders, and the Ark of Sotek, a Basiladon war machine with a Bound Vortex spell that summons jungle swarms used to shred through the armored infantry. At stage 2 of the prophecy, Teeny Weeny can call a global race war on the Skaven, forcing all Lizardmen to dow them and prevent any use of diplomacy between the two races. And at stage 3, once the bodies have piled sufficiently high, the Serpent God himself will make his presence felt on the mortal plane, a gigantic snake in wind spell form that can carve its way through any battle line. Tehenhauin is poised to become one of the strongest and most unique lords in mortal empires, and with a whole host of new toys to play with, the Vermintide better run and hide. Jurassic Park is coming to town.